Kyle Larson just said something about Max Verstappen that a lot of people aren't going to like, and honestly, what he said about Shane van Gisbergen might be even more shocking. Larson sat down on the Speed with Harvick and Buxton podcast, and he held nothing back. We're talking about the Verstappen debate, who's really the best driver in the world, why he thinks Americans don't get enough respect, and a brutally honest admission about one driver who's making the entire Cup garage look slow. Let's set the stage. Because Larson walked into this interview as the defending champion, rolling into Daytona for the biggest race of the year. And for Larson, Daytona still hits different. He talked about pulling into the tunnel for the first time each year, seeing thousands of campers set up in the same spots, the bars, the people gathered around them. He called the atmosphere for the 500 unlike any other NASCAR race of the year. Now here's what's weird about NASCAR that Larson pointed out. Their biggest race is the very first race, and it's a race where there's a huge chance you don't even finish. He admitted that's odd, but he also said he's learned to accept it as he's gotten older. Instead of hating the unpredictability, he actually has more fun with it now. And he said something that should get people excited. He said he legitimately feels like he could finally win on a superspeedway someday. Larson has also been to the Indy 500. So the guys asked him to compare the two biggest races in American motorsport. He was really careful here. He said he doesn't want anyone to think he's saying one is better than the other, because he truly believes they're equally amazing. But they are different. At Indy, the build-up is slow weeks of preparation that make race day feel massive. At Daytona, it's quick. You're in, you qualify, you run the duels, and then boom, it's race day. Let's get to the championship format, because this matters for the season ahead. NASCAR changed things up this year to reward consistency across the whole season. Larson said this plays to Hendrick Motorsport's strengths really well. He admitted he's not the most consistent driver, but he thinks he can be. The old format made you take bigger risks. This new one should help the big teams that run up front every week. He still thinks the same guys who were contenders before will be contenders now. It's just going to be a different kind of battle spread across the full season. When it comes to his schedule outside of Cup, Larson is trimming things down a bit. He's cutting his sprint car races from the low 30s down to about 25 this year. And the reason is pretty simple. His kids are growing up and he's missing too much. A lot of high-limit events fall on Wednesdays, and he can't even watch his son Owen race at Millbridge, which is basically in his backyard. He wants to be there more. He's still chasing that dream of racing in multiple disciplines and doing the big events, but he's trying to find a better balance between competition and being present for his family. Let's get to what everyone wants to hear, the Verstappen debate. The hosts brought up last year's big argument, Kyle Larson or Max Verstappen, who's better? A huge chunk of fans dismissed it immediately, saying obviously it's Verstappen and how dare anyone even ask. Larson didn't dodge it. He went straight at the bigger issue first. He said, Americans in general don't get the respect that they deserve from Europeans in any form I feel like of sport. He acknowledged that Formula One is by far the biggest and most watched motorsport in the world, so it makes sense that F1 fans aren't paying attention to what's happening in America. He said that's fine, but the problem is it creates this mindset where F1 fans believe no driver outside of F1 could ever be as good as even the worst F1 driver. And Larson pushed back on that. He pointed out that America has so much diverse racing compared to Europe, and in his mind, that kind of diversity would have to produce a driver just as good or potentially better than anyone from anywhere else in the world. As for actually figuring out who the best driver in the world is, Larson said he doesn't know how you'd ever do it, and he doesn't think you need to. He said the debate itself is fun, the banter between American fans, European fans, open-wheel fans. That's what makes it enjoyable. When asked if he'd like to see Max try Cup racing, Larson said he'd love to see anybody come try it, just to get their honest opinion. He said it would have to be much different from what they're used to. But he also gave Verstappen real credit, saying when that many people, competitors, team executives, everyone praise someone that much, you have to accept he's probably the best. And what really shows it, his teammate is never even in the same stratosphere, while on every other team, the teammates are within a couple of positions. But here's where Larson might have dropped an even bigger take. When the conversation shifted to Shane van Gisbergen and what he's done in the Cup garage, Larson was brutally honest. He said SVG is better at literally everything. Tire management, way better. Rate of degradation, way better. Proximity racing, way better. Carrying speed through slow corners, way better. He said, you name it, he's better at it than all of us. And his prediction? He said he doesn't see SVG being beaten unless something odd happens to take him out. SVG will qualify in the top 3, take the lead in the first 10 laps, run at 80% while everyone else pushes 100%, and then just drive away from the field. Larson said teams can actually see what setup SVG's crew is running and copy it exactly, but it doesn't matter. If you can't drive it the way he does, you can't replicate the results. Some drivers are trying to learn right foot braking because of SVG, and Larson's response to that was perfect. He said, you can learn how to right foot brake, but you're not going to beat him. He's that good. Larson admitted he's tried it himself in a street car and on iRacing, and his brain just can't tell his feet what to do. He said it's like having 2 left feet. And then the European guys say, what do you mean you don't know how to right foot brake? It's easy. Larson's response? No, it's not. He also talked about the health of sprint car racing, and he's proud of what High Limit has done. 4 years ago, there were about 14 full-time traveling teams. Now there are around 32 between the 2 series. He said their entrance forced the world of outlaws to finally step up, raise purses, add a safety team, start innovating. He said, I think us coming in has really pushed the sport to the next level, which is what it needed. When asked about the best sprint car track, Larson picked Knoxville Raceway without hesitation. Best track prep, biggest race, and the racing line changes so much during a 25-lap feature that it never gets boring. His favorite hidden gem? Tulare Thunderbolt Raceway. He said you run right up against the wall, the cushion ramps up, and when you figure it out, you can absolutely fly. But it tears up a lot of equipment getting there. He also pointed out that more and more drivers are branching out into different forms of racing these days. In the last 4 or 5 years, NASCAR drivers have been getting back to their roots, running pavement late models, dirt modifieds, sprint cars, micros. Plus, you've got international talent like SVG coming over to race full-time in Cup. Larson said whether or not he played a small part in that trend, he thinks it's great for the sport of auto racing. He enjoys watching people succeed or struggle because it shows just how tough it is to jump between different kinds of race cars. This whole conversation painted a picture of a driver who's at the peak of his career, but also trying to figure out life beyond the car. He's cutting back races to watch his kids grow up, admitting he's a terrible coach, giving honest respect to Verstappen while standing up for American drivers, and openly saying SVG is making every single Cup driver look slow. That kind of honesty is rare in any sport, and it's exactly why people keep coming back to listen to what Kyle Larson has to say.